I mean, if you look at my career, there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason, but the common denominator is that I'm willing to take risks. I left PepsiCo while I was still doing the transition in 1996.
Mhm.
And then I really tried to work on my own to do, because I was applying for my green card.
Welcome to the Smart Venture Podcast. We're here to bring you the latest and greatest from the Silicon Valley, where unicorns roam and innovation never sleeps. We've got top investors, superstar founders, and well-known tech executives lined up to share their secrets on building and investing in successful companies. Just a quick disclaimer, while we may sound like financial geniuses, but please don't mistake us for your friendly neighborhood financial advisors. So let's get started and dive into the wild world of tech entrepreneurship. Great news for all our Smart Venture Podcast listeners. Since January 8th, I've been hosting a new daily live show, Venture with Grace, on LinkedIn Live at 9 a.m. PT every weekday. Follow me, Grace Gong, on LinkedIn to catch up on past episodes and stay updated with future ones. You'll get insights from key industry players and have the chance to ask questions live. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel under the Live button. Join me on this journey and let's explore the world of innovation and investment together. This episode is brought to you by LG Nova. Get ready to ignite your passion for innovation at the 4th Annual InnoFest, happening at the iconic Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco on September 25th and 26th. This two-day event, brought to you by LG Nova, is your chance to dive into the future with industry leaders and cutting-edge startups shaping health tech, AI, clean tech, life science, smart life, mobility, and more. And here's something extra special. I'll be hosting a panel at InnoFest, guiding a dynamic discussion on the future of AI and the workforce. Join me along with other thought leaders as we explore the trends and technology driving innovation and positive change. Don't miss out on this unique opportunity to be part of the conversation and help create a brighter, more innovative tomorrow. Register today and be part of the movement at InnoFest 2024. Hi, JuE. Welcome to Venture with Grace / Smart Venture Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Grace. I know that you have always been very forthcoming with your guests, and I look forward to participating.
I want to start with, how did you grow up in Singapore? And you have worked in Singapore, Hong Kong, Geneva, London, early on in your career. Tell me more about what were the early age look like for you to become a leader you are today.
Well, thank you for saying that, and you're very kind. I don't think anyone wakes up one day, right, and kind of say, I want to be a leader. A leader's evolution is where you actually realize you may not be a great leader or a good leader even, but you observe other people who are so good and so great at what they do, and it inspires you to be either just like them or to do even better if you can. And so during my early stages, I would like to say that I had a plan, but really I chose the first job that I had, a real meaningful job after graduation from college, was primarily because I wanted the opportunity to travel. I wanted the opportunity to really meet and assimilate in new cultures. And while most of my cohorts were really joining companies that were more established, bankers, legal firms, or even consulting firms, I decided to join Cargill Commodity Trading without really knowing what commodities trading was about. But what it allowed me was to really apply myself in new ventures and also allow me to travel. You just articulated, I started in Singapore, then I moved on to Hong Kong, London, and Geneva. And then with PepsiCo, I was in Thailand, Bangkok, and
Hong Kong, New York.
Hong Kong, and then New York as well. So those were the opportunities I have. And I think growing up, because I come from a nation that is like a full stop on the map, like when you look at Singapore, you can't find it. It's like a dot. And so I always ask myself, if you are a punctuation on the map, what can you do to really showcase who you are? And I felt very fortunate because no Singaporeans that you talk to have never traveled. Everybody has, because we are so small by virtue of our geography and location. So I think one step led to another. and I decided that it's going to be my journey in where I need to experience different cultures and different geographies. I decided that a job that allows me to do that would be best. And along the way, I was very fortunate. I had very good mentors. I had very good bosses who really helped me. So for instance, my first opportunity to go to Hong Kong, after only less than a year working as a trainee for Cargill, the fact that they were willing to give me an expatriate package to go to Hong Kong is testimony to my boss, who basically had faith in me and told management, give this girl a chance because she is not going to disappoint.
So I want to pack that a little bit. So like you mentioned your boss give you a chance. Why do they give you a chance compared to other people? And then also back in time was like food and beverages industry. Can you give us more context on what was a hot job then? And then why did you pick what you do?
Right. I mean, hot job, obviously, even to today, is to go into banking, right? Go into stock equities and really be more front-facing with larger companies. While Cargill is probably one of the world's largest still private company, very few people would have heard of it. And the reason why I chose that is that I felt like I could differentiate myself primarily because they allow me to travel. And then the reason why I think my boss saw something in me, unbeknownst to me, this was years later, we had conversations, is that I took everything that I did very, very seriously. So for instance, we had a bid to sell a portion of cargo of sugar to New Zealand, which was an official bid process. And we lost by 1 cent. 1 cent on a cargo of 2.5 million tons is a lot of money. And I was so disappointed. And my boss saw that, and he actually told me, I actually thought you were going to resign because of that failure. And I wanted to see how you responded to it. And my response was, yes, I was disappointed. I've always been very competitive. But then I told myself, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to never pick the top, never pick the bottom, but always go with the understanding that the winning bid is the most important bid. So, and I applied myself that way. I tried very hard to also work with my fellow trainees, because there were 7 of us that year. 2 of us were women and the rest were guys. And we formed a really close network. And I tend to always talk about them in front of my supervisors. And they realized that I was also a people person, that I wasn't just about myself. And so with time, that proves itself, rather than me telling them what I am, they have observed who I am. And I take pride in bringing people along, because I do believe very strongly that no one can be successful on their own. Even an entrepreneur, even if you ran your own business and you brought everything, to the table, you have the resources, you have the financial bandwidth, you have the ideas. But if you are on your own, you can only go so far. And I'm proof of that, right? Because I would never have done what I've done. I've switched careers from commodities to beverages to CPG, then to private equity backed brand. I mean, if you look at my career, there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason. But the common denominator is that I'm willing to take risks. And I'm willing, in taking those risks, recognize that I need a team behind me and that I need to be a good team player as well. And I think all those come together as I move forward, whether forward, sideways, or even backwards in my career.
When did you move backward?
I think that is something people realize. So when I was a commodities trader and I was with PepsiCo, I was on their board of director for Asia Pacific. For somebody at my age and at my level to be on a board with a public company and really managing all of Asia and emerging markets, foreign currency balancing, it was a very big deal. But then I had to move back to the US for my family, because I was an expatriate for such a long time. And my late husband at that time had to go back. He was an only child. His mother wasn't doing well, and the kids needed to be back in the US. And I took a complete position cut. I left PepsiCo while I was still doing the transition in 1996. And then I really tried to work on my own to do, because I was applying for my green card. And when you're applying for your green card, you can't work. You basically have to wait for the green card to get approved. And when I did finally, and I was in Arizona, and Arizona, the only international, multinational company was at that time, the Dial Corporation. I applied to them. I went from a director to a brand manager. It was a huge drop. My compensation dropped tremendously. Even my boss who hired me at Dial actually said, are you sure you want to do this? And I say, look, if I am going to make a career change, I cannot expect to start at a lateral place. I need to take a step back, learn the tricks of the trade, learn to be a good brand manager. And then from there, I can move on up if I prove myself. And being a brand manager is really a great platform for me moving on into beauty and other emerging brands, as well as private equity-backed portfolio brands, because it sets the foundation and the discipline of analytics, understanding your market, where distribution is, why is it important when you are even distributed, what your merchandising looks like strategically, how are you going to expand and grow and scale. So I have no regrets doing that, but at that point in time, it almost felt like from being the youngest in everything to almost being the oldest at everything. And that can be, very difficult for somebody who doesn't think they can climb out of that hurdle or that hole. But I never had any doubt because I was fortunate. I had a family. My late husband was just very supportive of me. I remember when I got a job offer to move from LA. I mean, let's start from Arizona, Scottsdale to LA to New York. He never said, oh, let's plan for this. Instead, he said, when are we moving? And I think that has given me so much opportunity to really look out for not only myself, but the family. And having a partner that really supports you is priceless.
I'm about to cry. I feel like that's so sweet. I wonder, okay, so how do you get into beauty? I know Murad is probably your first stop in beauty. I want to frame it this way. You took a beauty company public. OLPX is a $12 billion company. Most of the beauty company got bought by L'Oreal and then called it a day. Why you? What do you think are like the core trait of making a beauty company successful? Also, as a CEO, what were the core quality you feel like that were differentiated you versus these 5,000 other people?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I really, really do believe that the power of the people is more powerful than every leader in place. So if you look at a company, I don't care whatever company, there's only one CEO and many people. And if anybody thinks that the CEO is the most powerful, yes, it is powerful in terms of how the outside world look at the individual, but the power is in the team. And I think because I recognize that and because I really mean it, it's one thing when everybody talks about it, right? I mean, every leader always say, my team is the most important. I love my team. And without my team, I can't be successful. A lot of people say that. But how do you prove it? And people watch what you do, not what you say. And every company I've gone into, the first thing I do is never to disparage the outgoing team, never to tell this current team that you need to pull your socks up because, if you don't, you're all going to be gone. I'm going to helicopter my own team in. Instead, I really sincerely tell the team, none of you started your job and raise your hand and say, hey, Mrs. CEO, I really want to be mediocre. Don't come and talk to me. I don't need a pay raise. I don't need a bonus. Just let me coast on the job. Everyone starts on a job and say, I want to do my best. I want to deliver my best. I want to add value. Along the way, they lost some of those momentum and fire, primarily because they are disappointed. Whether they are disappointed by leadership, disappointed by strategy, disappointed by, whatever it may be, that fervor, you ask yourself, you look at yourself as an individual, you are who you are, no matter where you go. But if that fire can be relit or you can feel the power of making a difference, guess what? You got to go for it. And when I can reignite that passion in every one of the team members that are partnering with me, guess what? Results happen, performance gets accelerated, and magic does happen. And every one of my role, that is what ends up happening, because when I leave, every one of my team will give me something to let me know how much I mean to them. And I never want to take that for granted. I never leave an organization and think that I have done my job. I leave an organization and I look back and I ask myself, how are each of these team members doing? And sometimes out of the blue, without any, one asking me to, I will send them a note or I will share a reference for them unsolicited and just let them know what I think of them. And I think that helps people understand how much they mean to me as an individual, as an executive, and that when I told them that, they were important in helping us get to that next level, I really meant it. So that is the people side of the skill. Obviously, you have to be functionally strong, right? I mean, and I have always been in what we call turnaround situation as well as scaling growth. So I've never been in between. Either the business is in a huge problem and I need to do something with the team, or the opportunity is this business is growing and you need to continue to scale it and take it through. Every one of this scenario, the common theme again is people, right? And a lot of leaders, I don't think it's their fault, tends to take a lot of things inside and try to solve it on their own. But when you get to a certain stage in business, you can't take everything into your own, little world. You need to delegate, you need to depend on people, you need to hire the right people around you. And most of all, you need to show respect for anyone that has been in the position before you. Because nobody got to that place because you just happened to start. Somebody laid the foundation for you, right? And in my case, mostly it is founders who have laid the foundation. And I always tell the founders, it is because of people like them that give executives like me an opportunity to be more than what I thought I could ever be. And when I understand that balance of appreciation, I will always treat that individual or that team with tremendous respect.
Wow. I'm sure a lot of people told you, you're amazing, articulate, charismatic leader. And I wonder, how do you gain these skills? I feel like a lot of people may be very good at their job, but they're just hard at communicate their inner voice or basically their insights to the team. But I feel like you're an amazing communicator. And obviously, I feel like you're amazing. And how do you improve these soft skill? And I wonder, is there something that early on in your career, is your parents all great business leaders? How do you adopt these things? Who is on your personal board of advisors when it comes to picking up these like soft skills per se?
I think one of the things I always recognize is that while I may think I have achieved a lot or I may come a long way, there is still a lot more to do and a lot more to achieve. And I think that I have been very helpful to people, I also realize when I look at other people, how much more they have done. So on some level, I never rest on what I have. I never kind of look at what I have done as the ending, but always the beginning. And in terms of the way I articulate things, I think I have been fortunate growing up. I've always been very public facing, meaning that I've always been a child or a person that constantly wants attention from my parents, from my relatives. And I think because my parents really did not tell me, oh, you have to be a teacher, you have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer or a lawyer or anything. They basically this is what my mother used to tell me. Please do not push yourself so hard. We just want you to be happy. Can you do that for yourself? And I'm like, happiness is overrated. I told my mom, you have to achieve to be. And my mom, I remember my mom telling, and my mom was very successful. She was the head of the IT department at that time in Exxon Chemicals. I mean, for a woman to be in that space. So I looked to her and I saw what she did. It never occurred to me that it was unusual. It just occurred to me that, hey, if my mom can get there, I can get there as well. And because I come from Singapore, where I am the majority ethnically, right? As a Chinese, I am the majority. I've never felt like I needed to sideline myself in expressing my opinion. And therefore, when I chose to go to school, even though I was accepted in Singapore by the National University of Singapore at that time, I could not get the major that I wanted to do. They streamed me to business administration. And I told myself, I can't do business administration. I'm not good at accounting. I'm not going to do that. So without permission, I applied to go to school in Australia. My mother had no idea what I was doing. I applied on my own. I pushed paper in front of her and say, just sign this. If it happens, I'll find a way to pay for myself. And I chose to go to Australia, to Canberra instead of Melbourne, Sydney, because there were not a lot of Asians going to that state. And I wanted to really break out and force myself in not being a majority. If I was a minority, how would I behave? How would I feel about it? And I think all of those learnings at a very early age helped me kind of formulate the person that I'm today without excuses. Like, I don't go around saying that, oh, because I'm a minority and I'm a woman, that's why I'm being treated this way. In fact, my question to myself is always, what can I do better? I never kind of come across that I feel like I'm being discriminated. And maybe I am, who knows, right? But I don't feel that way. I don't want to be in that position. And so I pride myself to push myself through. And I'm sure you know too, because being Asian, your Chinese name has meaning. Your parents gave you a Chinese name for a very specific reason, because Chinese parents have a lot of hopes in their children. And while my parents never hug and tell me that they love me all the time, I know that the name that they gave me had all of their hopes and dreams in it. Because my name in Chinese, which I still keep, is Ru Yi. And Ru Yi in Chinese, as you know, means is whatever your heart desires, you will achieve. And when your parents give you a name like this, you realize how much they want for you and hope for you and love you. And every time I feel like, why did not my parents say that more often? I realize it's always in my name. Every time they call me, they are telling me that. Every time they yell at me, they're telling me you are better than that. You're capable of more.
Wow. Where does your drive come from?
I think my drive comes from a very early age where, when I say early, like, school going age, where we were all encouraged to write and read a lot. And I used to always read books that, Little Women, biographies. And when I read about people and how they have come through, I always imagine myself to be them. I always ask myself when I was younger, could I live multiple lives in one lifetime? And so I imagine I will write stories and imagine that I am very, shy and quiet and introverted. And then I'll write stories where I'm very extroverted and what I would do. And I will write stories where I fail and could not do anything and I'm penniless. And the stories sometimes never get finished. I just start writing it and then I kind of stop. But it gives me the imagination of wanting to live life in many different ways and many different scenarios, even though I can only pick one lane to live. But it helps me be a little bit more, it stretches me. It tells me that, look, maybe you could be that, but if you choose not to, it's okay as well.
I wonder, what are things that inspires you? And is there a particular leader that inspires you? And then before we dive into the world of beauty, because you definitely work at some iconic brands, I want to chat about that. What inspires you?
Sure. I think, a lot of people are very inspiring in their own way. I look at this, there's this woman that I reported to when I was at Murad called Mary Beth Peterson. She's now the CEO of another company. I just can't remember the name of the company just yet, but she gave me my start. It was my first time going into a beauty business. She could have easily said, look, I'm not going to take a chance on you. I mean, my God, you haven't done this. But she took a chance on me, and it helped me understand that somebody giving you an opportunity is very valuable. And when somebody does that for you, guess what? You have that obligation and you feel compelled to do well for this person. So she is one person that I truly look up to. I also look up to Roger Enrico, the former CEO at PepsiCo. If it wasn't for him, I would never have been nominated to the Wall Street Journal of top 50 women to watch when I was just a director at PepsiCo. I mean, the fact that he gave me the opportunity to see myself bigger than what I thought, I was. And then there are a lot of other women in the space. Mindy Grossman is a great example. Rosemary Bravo, who was formerly the CEO at Burberry. Annette Green, who is, the Fragrance Foundation chairperson for a very long time. All of these people have given me the courage to dream and to be more than myself. And even currently, my peers, when I look at them and see what they have pulled themselves through, it's just very, very validating. And really, I never take I push myself, but I don't take myself seriously because I know there are a lot more people who do a lot more greatness than I have and will have. But it's okay because I want to be part of the world's solution rather than part of the world's problems. And so, I think being able to be happy where you are, but also recognize that there is a lot more you can do. Sometimes it seems very contradicting, but it keeps you constantly in play, right? I mean, like if you never think about what could be, you might just take a back seat and just relax. But if you're always thinking of what could be and never, kind of balance out your life, you're an impossible person to live with and deal with. I mean, like, I would never want somebody to tell me, look, JuE, you are great at what you do, but as a person, I don't want to be with you or like you. And I think, that is always important, that you are a human being first, and then everything else falls into place.
That's so deep and meaningful. I wonder what makes a beauty company successful? Because you've done a lot of different beauty companies, either serving as a CEO or president or board of director. What are 3 factors that to make a beauty company successful? And you also, prior to this, worked in the food and beverage space. What are the similarities and differences compared to a beauty company versus other type of companies?
No, that's a very good question. So first and foremost, if you look at all the brands that I work with, there's one thing, that ties them together is that they all have some sort of a technology and a brand differentiation. When I joined Dr. Murad, Dr. Perricone, Dr. Obagi, that was the growth of all these dermatology clinical brands. But I wanted to really be with brands that are backed by a dermatologist who understands the skin of science, right? The science of skin, rather. And so that's, one big factor in terms of what makes a beauty brand successful. The second thing is the beauty brand needs to be more than just a technology, that they can also articulate their point of difference. You want to use one word to do so. And Dr. Murad was the water principle. Dr. Perricone was anti-inflammation. Dr. Obagi was brightening and lightening the skin. Like I can articulate each one of them in 1 word or 2 words. And if you can do that with a brand or a product lineup, you are golden because people have very short memory. And then the third thing is that while it's only fashionable and on trend now, it's a brand that really do well and do good, that gives back, that has the DNA to do so. Dr. Murad has always been very clear about doing well and doing good. He donates his time, his money when we were there back to the community. Dr. Perricone was I probably shouldn't mention the orphanage, but he gave a big portion of his income to an orphanage outside of the US, and he never wanted any PR on it because he did not want those children to become the poster child of orphans. And then when I look at somebody like even Moroccanoil, with the founders, he started the business primarily to donate money to the widows fund in his church, in his synagogue. And so when you see all this and technology, articulation of your point of difference, doing well and doing good, these are very key components to really connect with your consumer who are looking for performance, but also to the consumer that all things being equal, why should I spend my money with you? And then, you also asked me about food and beverage. What's the difference? I have a dream that one day skincare can be so clean and good that it will actually be merchandise at the food counter. That you can actually, your skincare can be so good that you can even eat it. Because why are you not able to eat your skincare? Because a lot of the preservatives and a lot of the synthesized chemicals. But I think food and beverage, if you look at what has happened now, is going on the healthy front. Skin and beauty is also going that direction. But there is a place where you can make it nourishing for the skin, better for the environment, and ultimately it is what, when you use the product and you do not end up displacing anything else that could be deemed as unhealthy. It could actually be healthier and healthier for an individual.
I wonder from a business perspective, we talk about all these amazing leaders or amazing dermatologists. They have really great ambition in terms of the philanthropy side or the brand side. And then you mentioned all the brands that you work for, they have a clear differentiation in terms of technology and like branding differentiation. What does it make a brand successful in terms of the products? Is a product first, come first, or is a marketing come first? Because we've seen so many brands that they are just very good at PRing, packaging, influencer marketing, especially at this TikTok age or even the VC industry. Basically, the top funds are very intentional when it comes to branding themselves, posting content online. Basically, every company is becoming a media company. And I wonder, I feel like for Olaplex or for the Moroccan oil, I feel like they're a product-led company, as I don't see a major celebrity like Kylie Jenner wearing them every day, or no shade on Kylie Jenner, of course, but I'm just giving an example of influencer-led marketing. I wonder what makes a business successful besides like the technology component and there's like a very good cause behind them.
No, that's a really good question. First and foremost, the product has to work, right? Because there's just too many. I mean, think about it. You can walk into any kind of beauty retailer today and you are inundated with brands. You go online and you Google search whatever functionality you want, whether it's brightening of your skin, whether it's acne concerns, whether, it's fine lines and wrinkles. You are inundated with, I'm the number one. This is 5-star rating. Look at the social media platforms. Ultimately, it's the ability for that product, when a customer is using it, they are able to see the performance of the product. Very much easy when it comes to color cosmetics and hair care products, because when you put on color, you can tell whether the color suits you, the foundation is for you. Hair care, same thing. You put a product on, you wash your hair, you can see the difference, you can feel the difference. Skincare is a lot more difficult, but then skincare has what I call loyalty and longevity. So the way you want to capture an audience or your customers' loyalty is to deliver on your promise. If you are going to say that this is going to do X, Y, and Z, make sure it does. And this comes from the technology and the articulation of the technology and the animation of the technology. I would not put too much credence on just what celebrities are using the product or what, influencers like the product. The question is, how much time have they been using that product? Because all of us, if we have some science background, understand the skin goes through cell turnover every 30 days, in a normal cycle. If you're older, it's going to take a little bit longer. And so anyone who kind of say, look, immediately I see a difference, you've got to almost question the integrity of that review. Or they can say, look, I see a difference, meaning that I feel a difference, because a lot of products today have two things going for it. They want the texture to feel good. They want the scent to not obscure. And more importantly, they want it to look like when you put it on, you can see a hydration or a little bit of a diffusing kind of imagery. But the ultimate way for the product to really develop any kind of performance in your skin is that 30, 40-day period. So I think working with your customers and your audience to really want to stay with the brand and try the product and use it for the longer period of time. And that's why I'm very selective, right? I have not, if you look at, I stopped with skincare for a bit and joined hair care because I felt like there was a skinification of hair, and I felt like that was an opportunity to do so. And skincare today is a very crowded field because the hurdle of entry, the cost of entry into beauty is much lower than in technology. So consumers need to be smart. They need to do their research, and they should not be afraid to ask questions. Go to the company's website and ask on all the questions that you want. If they can't answer you in a truthful and direct way, then you know it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's all about the marketing. And marketing can sell a product, but marketing cannot sustain a product.
I guess I wonder, how do you measure your performance as a CEO? Because you've climbed the career ladder very successfully, and I wouldn't say climb this success career ladder, but the beauty industry is very competitive. You come from originally Asia to went to school in Australia, and now you're in the US. How do you quickly establish yourself in the industry? And how do you equip yourself with all the skills? Because as a CEO, you have to manage the finance side of things. You have to manage marketing. You have to manage the product development. You have to manage operational related things. What do you identify as your unfair advantage? And how do you fix or put together a team to work around you that will help you with the things that you don't
Yeah.
like? Yeah.
No, absolutely. Again, a fantastic question. Is a question that every leader asks themselves, because you're absolutely right. You got to equip yourself, with people, good people around you. But what I have done, differently in terms of, instead of just surrounding myself with good people, I also surround myself with people who have done the job in the original company. Because I have always, when I first started in business, in beauty rather, Dr. Murad was the only one that was a growth brand. Subsequently, thereafter, until Moroccanoil, every brand was what we call a turnaround situation. Very few people liked to do turnarounds. Why? Because turnaround is never about longevity. You don't get to stay in a company when you're in a turnaround situation for a long time, but you get to achieve results in a very transparent way, because it's either you have done it or you have failed. There's no in between. It's either you exit the brand, you refinance the brand, you get more investment into the brand. So that is what I have chosen. I've chosen my beauty career in turnaround situation, and I got my first CEO role in 2009, and I literally joined the beauty business in 2002 with Dr. Murad. So if you think about it, people who have been more time in the beauty industry would tell you there's no way in 7 years I'm going to become a CEO. The reason why I could do that was I chose a path that very few people were probably interested in, especially in 2009. Private equity wasn't a very big, piece of the beauty business. There were a lot of strategics looking to acquire brands. But I felt like my background in understanding finance, because of my commodities trading days, my love of being very meticulous in how I operate, and my love for people, because I have never gone into any company and just basically tell everybody you're gone. Yes, there are people who will leave the organization. There are people who I would transition out of the organization, but I never transition anyone by telling them that they are not good. I tell them that the fit for them at this point in time is not right. And I prove it by writing them a reference and by recommending other roles for them very quickly. I don't kind of say, I'll think about it, and when your name comes up, I'll recommend. I make it my point to try to help them find their next position, because I want them to know when I say that the fit is not there, it's not just words, that I truly mean it, right? And so when you are in a situation where you are able to find a sweet spot for yourself, and in my case, it's turnaround or hyper growth, then when things like this happen, people come to you. I have never really looked for a job since 2004 when I left Perricone. Every job thereafter has been someone coming to me. And I feel very fortunate, very grateful. And the reason why too is that on your way up, you got to bring people along. You cannot just step over everyone thinking that, you are fine, because on your way down, there's going to be a lot of daggers behind you if you don't do the right thing when you're on your way up. And, do I always, do this as a quick pro quo, like, oh, I better treat this person nice because on my way down, they may stab me in the back. I think I take a lot more pride in doing the right thing for anyone that I come in touch with than being worried what would happen if things are not right. because I'm not sure if you have been a person that gives back a lot, the feeling is so much more wonderful, right? You feel so good when you do something good for someone rather than, being mean to somebody. So I love that altruistic feeling that I get. And I feel like if I can do it, why not? I mean, like it takes so little to do the right thing versus being bad in anything else or trying to be mean to someone else.
I have so many questions on the last part you just mentioned. It sounds like you are intentionally doing a lot of good things to creating a karma for yourself, helping others along the way. What about your direct competitors? What's your thought on how to keeping a healthy relationship with them, or there is a healthy relationship with them? I have so many questions on the turnaround thing because I think living in Silicon Valley, I've seen like press article about why a certain female CEO took over this tech company that's about to go down, and the people are just throwing shit at female CEOs. Excuse my language, but just basically people are saying, oh, because of this company's dying, so let's hire like a female CEO to make them do whatever this is and just blame their like gender or something. So I don't want to get into a lot of like gender talk, but it's more of a situation on how do you even succeed in the situation of being a CEO that's turning things around. And when people finding
Yes.
you, yeah.
No, I like how you're framing that question. First, let me take the question about, how do I handle, how do I relate to my competition? And I'll tell you, not everybody likes me, and I don't like everybody, right? I mean, transparent. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a human being. They are human beings. There are people that I am going to be cordial with. There are brands that I'm going to respect them in spite of the fact they are my direct competitor. But if they compete on an equal footing and compete fairly, I will have tremendous respect for them. I have been known that when I find out that a brand is undercutting myself or my company or my people, I have been known to be a very protective mama bear, and I will go after the brand. I will not go after the people. I will go right to the top to whoever is in position of authority and let them know this is not on. So I'm very direct. And when I can't deal with somebody that I feel like is at odds with my, values, I minimize contact with that individual. So I can do all that. The other question that you asked, why in turnarounds? So I am not in turnarounds because I feel like I have something to prove. I'm in turnarounds because I actually like it. Because I like going into a situation where people feel like this is tough. Is it ever going to be okay? And I want people to know, even in your darkest hour, there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? There is a saying that says, the darkest time is just before dawn. And I want people to have faith again in themselves, in the brand, and in the company. Because ultimately, a brand is hollow without people, without products, and without, belief. Who puts all this in? It's people, right? And if I can get people to really galvanize together, we can move mountains. I mean, like, maybe it's very naive of me to say that, but I have never gone into a situation. Of course, I have been asked to join certain companies where I have said no to because I don't think I could do what they want of me. I can't add that value. But every company I've gone into, I've never gone into thinking, shoot, am I going to be successful, or am I just going to like meander here and just try my best? My best is never going to be good enough. I have to believe, and I have to bring the people along, and I have to have the people want to make this happen. Because we have very short time. Turnarounds are not years in the making. With private equity, is generally a 7-8 year fund. It's generalizing. Not everybody is that way. And if it's 7 or 8 year and you get brought in year 3 or year 4, you only have 3 to 4 years to get things going. And so you don't have the time to just keep hiring and firing. You've got to work with who you have, the talent that you have. And remember what I said at the very beginning, nobody gets hired for everybody has something to contribute. You just have to find that and bring that out in that individual. I mean, I have been a Sunday school teacher. I'm not religious, but I have been. And I've always noticed when I walk into a classroom, not everybody is a type A. Not everybody is an introvert. Not everybody is They are people, and you know how to kind of like bring out the best in the children. And that, I think, is the most satisfying thing, because you see somebody coming out of their shell, or the person that is in their shell stays in their shell, but allows the people who are very outgoing to recognize, hey, this person is very special. I want to get to know this person because he or she is doing something that I never thought of. And that, I think, is the spirit of leadership, where you are never going to try to make everybody like yourself. You're going to make everybody their best self.
Wow. How do you make everybody their best self? What does that comes down to? Tactics. Do you spend hours of hours chatting with everyone? You know, we had the former co-CEO of Chipotle came on. So he was chatting with 20,000 Chipotle employees one-on-one. And so I wonder, how do you spend your time as a CEO to make sure you understand like everybody's strengths and weakness? And I also find it very hard to recognize what is everyone about. It's really hard to figure out what drives each person within a short amount of time. Also, I bet as a CEO, how you're managing your time when it comes to
No,
motivation.
again, a great question. And how, obviously what happens is I've got my line of direct reports. I usually have 9 to 12 direct reports as a CEO, as you have mentioned,
Mhm.
the R&D function, the marketing, the sales, all of that. You want to empower that immediate line, right? So that they can then empower and really make a material difference for the people reporting into them. I have always been fortunate because maybe I don't have a life, so I do spend a lot of my weekends. Like sometimes if I'm free, like when we were going through this COVID situation, I would call every one of our people. And I was employee number 36 in year 1. By year 2, we were 84 and 100 something and 200 today. And I still maintain contact. We have town halls. I will make sure if I can use a chat box to encourage someone. After the call, I will call someone, just to kind of figure out what's happening. And I think good leaders sometimes need not have all those one-on-one. If you can exude the confidence and the sincerity and the authenticity and transparency in your conversations, in your town halls, in your offsite meetings, people feel that this is a cause they can follow. And I've always made it clear, it is not me, it is the company, right? I mean, like we are all, nothing is larger than the company. That is the first thing we all have to recognize.
Mhm.
I also want to let them know that every one of them can do what they do best, because if the company is so strong and everyone is doing their work, actually, if I were to look at it and say, I can't even tell who the damn leader is in this company, that's actually a good sign, because it's like a well-oiled machine. Everybody is doing their part and the machine is moving forward. That's excellent. So to me, those are the qualities that I constantly think of. Culture is very important. I believe in establishing the right culture, the right attitude, and helping people not look at the immediate problem, but look at it and say, this problem has a solution. It's better that I solve this problem with this team rather than try to get someone else in to solve this problem. It's a lot to do with attitude. It's a lot to do with, bringing out, like I say, the best in people, because everyone is good at what they are. Nobody, think about it, even when you walk down the street and you see a homeless person or a very old person, begging on the street, that person has a life. They didn't become that. They were full of hope. What happened? Why can't I bring back that hope in that individual?
Okay, so you took Olaplex public. How was that journey like? How do you took a company public, especially in the beauty space? What kind of benchmark do you have to hit? And as a CEO, what do you think was the challenge for you to?
I think, one thing is recognizing, going public is not the end all, it's the beginning. It was about helping people see the brand with more visibility. I also knew that the team that was with us at that time was deserving of everything that a public situation could get to them. Because up until Olaplex, hairdressers were always seen as the underdog, right? Skincare has their dermatologists, makeup has their makeup artists, fragrance has all their perfumers. But when it came to hair care, it was like, oh, hairdressers. So, and I really believe that hairdressers are hair professionals. They are hair doctors. Why can't they get the same respect and the same wealth opportunity as all the other professionals. So with that in mind, we were doing a lot of our roadshow, a lot of our communication to prospective investors, on that basis, that this is the future of beauty. Before Olaplex, nobody talked about hair care as a prestige category. And we were more than prestige. More than beauty, more than a hair care company. There was a reason in our beginning sentence in our S1, we call it when you go public. The first sentence says, Olaplex is a science-led, technology-driven beauty company. We didn't say it was hair. We didn't say it was that. So it's very deliberate. And I think, again, you have to deliver on your performance. We were already having quarters after quarters of real good growth, calm growth, and being able to articulate that, have a great finance person that can really drive home the financial metrics and the messages, and having a strong sales team that can really execute and make sure that, it is there. And then having an operations team who are like the weatherman. You get it wrong, everyone is on you. You get it right, nobody sing your praises. But everybody knew the part that they were playing. And together we made history. It was the most successful IPO for consumer brand in 20 years. Yes, a lot has happened since then, and I won't go into that detail. We only have 3 minutes left. But I can tell you, even despite all of these challenges that the brand has faced, I have full of hope and promise. And I know because the brand is more than just what all of the challenges that people are talking about. Olaplex has a true, technology, and the people are truly committed to its success. And so as a former CEO, I am very proud to see what the team is doing.
That's amazing. Okay, I want to be mindful of time. I have a 1-minute fire round for you.
Sure.
Okay, what's your favorite book?
The Everything Store, that is about Amazon.
That's a great book. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
I would invite, oh God, this is hard. I would like to invite, whether I can get the person, is Kate Middleton of the royal family.
Why?
I believe she is really a people princess. I feel like she has gone through a lot that is unfair. And I feel like, having somebody like her would be very interesting to have real conversation rather than just cocktail conversations.
Who made the biggest impact in your career?
I want to say my late husband. Without him, I would not be where I am today.
Where can we find you outside of work?
You will find me on the hiking trails. I love hiking. I have hiked the Caminos de Santiago in 2019, and it was a 300-mile hike that I did in 12 days. So you can do the math. Yeah.
My God.
Yes.
Well, JuE, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning into Smart Venture Podcast. If you learned something from the episode or even just mildly tolerated me, please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. I promise I will keep bringing you more successful, insightful interviews and insider tips about startups. Remember, sharing is caring. So tell your friends to listen too, or enemies, I won't judge. Until next time, keep venturing smartly.